Great. Hello, everyone. We are about to get started. I'm going to share my screen now. I hope everyone can see it. Great. So welcome, everyone, to NetElixir's annual Ad Copy Championships webinar. Here we're going to be testing out 9 different AdWords copywriting tips to see which ones come out on top and provide you with better click-through rates. Now, before we go in, and I know we have a lot of clients on here, I do want to share with you a little bit about NetElixir for those of you who haven't met us before. NetElixir is a retail search marketing agency who helps retailers find more customers online, convert them, and keep them coming back for more. Our team is composed of 120 plus fanatically analytical search marketers, currently operating in 3 different countries around the world. Now, we are a Google Premier partner as well as a Bing Select partner, and have additional partnerships with UPS and Forrester to help deliver you the best possible experience. We work with customers across different categories in the retail space, from beauty to home and kitchen to women's apparel to flowers, gifting, and everything in between. Our value prop is that we combine our expertise with our proprietary retail technology to help generate demand for your digital storefront and convert that demand into sales. Our mantra here at NetElixir is to help you decode what makes people click. Now, we understand that search marketing isn't all about the numbers and the clicks. It's a big part of it, but more importantly, search marketing is about the people. And we want to help you understand your customers, how they go on their buyer journeys, and what you can do to make that experience even better for them, while also helping to increase your online traffic and sales. Our services include digital marketing strategy, paid search and shopping campaigns, SEO, paid social media, Amazon and marketplace marketing, and Elixir Guide, one of the industry's first paid search recommendation engines. We've been noted for some of our progress this year by being finalists in 3 major awards. Early on in the year, we were chosen as one of the 5 finalists for the Google Premier Partner Search Innovation Awards. We were then selected as a finalist for the OMA Awards for search marketing SEM campaigns nationally. And finally, we will learn this month if we are the winners for the US Search Awards for Best PPC Management Software Suite for Elixir Guide Recommendation Engine software. Joining me today is the content manager and editor at NetElixir, Isma Vikar, who will tell you a little bit about herself now.
My name is Isma, and I'm the content manager and editor at NetElixir. I'm a Rowan alumni, and I have an editorial and art background. I have over 5 years of digital marketing experience, and I'm also the leader of our Ad Lab project, where we blend data analytics and art to craft compelling ad messages.
Thank you. And just to tell some of the people a little bit more about the Ad Lab project, why don't you give us a background on why NetElixir created that program and what your role is there?
So we found that before NetElixir, a lot of our clients were writing their own ads for the sake of writing ads, and they found that their ads weren't performing well. There were general best practices in place, but they weren't really backed by any hard data. So no one was really looking into what was working and what wasn't working and why. So our goal as a company is to help businesses succeed online, and that includes text ads too. So as a result, we wanted to showcase the art of writing with data to create a set of best practices everyone can use to write better ads and improve their click-through rate.
Thank you. We found that the formula for getting great results really does include these 4 key tenets of including copywriting best practices with rigorous testing protocols, understanding the consumer mindset and the psychology of the buyer journey, and mixing that all together with creativity so that at the end of the day, we can have the best performing ads. Now, before we move forward and get started with the webinar, I do want to let you know there's going to be a lot of different numbers, a lot of different best practices that we share today. So instead of having you vigorously take notes on your end, we wanted to make that a little bit easier and provide a couple different resources to help you follow up. First and foremost, we will be recording this webinar. So we will be able to send this recording out at the end of the webinar for those who attended and those who were not able to. Secondly, everyone today is going to get the official NetElixir Ad Lab playbook. This playbook is going to contain all the information on the slides you see here, as well as additional research, insights, and best practices to help you write the best ad copy. Finally, for those of you who know you need a little bit more help, or maybe don't have the people, the processes, or the technology in place to really measure the success of your ads, we are offering a complimentary holiday ad copy audit where our team will look at a selection of your different ads, provide our insights and recommendations, and help you write better ads before the holiday season kicks into full gear, which, believe it or not, is happening right now and will continue to happen up until Black Friday and through December. You can find that by going to www.netelixir.com/copy audit. Again, netelixir.com/copy audit. Up on today's agenda, the first thing we're going to do is Isma's going to go over the methodology and help you understand a little bit more about how we came up with the different tests we're going to talk about today and where that data set came from. Next, we're going to share a sample ad to show you just what we're talking about for those of you who aren't in AdWords every day and may not have a feel for what ads look like in 2017. Next, we'll go into the meat and potatoes of the presentation, where we'll share all the different tests we ran, the results from those tests across different categories, as well as our internal insights into why we think the results ended up the way they did. Finally, in the last few minutes, we'll jump into the Q&A section so that we can hopefully answer any of your specific questions about the presentation or anything AdWords copywriting related. So, without further ado, Isma, can you please go over the methodology and explain to everyone how we got to where we are?
February of this year to September of this year. So we sampled from client ads in Google AdWords across 100 retail clients. We removed any ads with less than 100 clicks, and overall we analyzed over 60,000 remaining ads to collect our data. We index our data using the average click-through rate in our study. So click-through rate is clicks divided by impressions. We also took a look at conversion rate as well, which is conversions divided by clicks for our insights.
Thank you. One small note, though, Isma wanted to mention to everyone the difference between this year's Ad Lab versus previous Ad Labs that we've done.
Description lines and a 35-character display URL for a total of 130 characters. And on the right-hand side, you can see that the format changed altogether with the expanded text ads. So headline 1 was 30 characters, or is 30 characters, and headline 2 is also 30 characters. And then it's divided by a hyphen. After that, you see the paths, which are the display URL / path 1, and then another keyword, and then slash. So then you have the description line right after that, and that's a total of 80 characters. So with expanded text ads, that's a total of 170 characters, which is quite a chunk. And I also wanted to really just emphasize that if you're still running standard text ads, make sure that you transfer them all over to expanded text ads. And I highly recommend writing all new ads.
Thank you, Isma. And now, let the games begin. Let's jump into the individual tests. In round one, we're going to be testing the effect of action verbs in our headlines. Isma, take us away with test one.
So we noticed that some ads start with an action word, usually stop or buy, while others don't. So that's what I was thinking. What happens on the ad, or is it simply just more than enough? So let's find out.
Now, everyone, before we move forward, I was just told that the audio is very choppy. We're going to dial in on the phone, and this will help solve our issue. If you could bear with us for one moment.
Hi everyone. Very, very sorry about that. We just heard that the audio is cutting out for everyone. Can you hear us now? Let's see. If you can just write into the questions box if you can now hear us, that would be great. Great. We're getting a lot of yeses, Very good. So we apologize for that interruption. Let's get back into this wonderful content that we were reviewing. For those of you who missed it, the first round of tests we're running is action verbs in headlines. Isma, take us away.
Okay, so we noticed that some ads start with an action word like shop, buy in front of them while others don't. So that got us thinking, would having an action word in headline 1 really entice people to click on the ad, or is it simply just having the keywords more than enough? So let's find out.
And the winner of round 1 is no action word in the first headline. Isma, tell us a little bit about the results from this test.
Okay, so we found that having no action word in headline 1 had a higher click-through rate, 2.2%, when compared to having an action word in headline 1, which was 1.55%. So with action word in headline 1 had a higher conversion rate of 5.71% versus having no action word 5.3%. So keep that in mind. No action word won an animal, promotional, hobby, home furnishing, stationery, and technology. With action word won in clothing and apparel and food. Steve, you want to share some insights into why?
Sure. As we mentioned, one of the key pieces to this Ad Labs webinar is that we'd like to try to understand a little bit more of the why. So we took a stab at looking at the data, comparing it to different psychological models that we've been working on here, as well as from leading academic professors and others in the industry, and tried to understand a little bit more about why these things happen. So in round 1, what we're seeing is that building brand credibility before trying to sell seems to work a lot better for many categories. Now, there is a caveat here. For impulse purchase categories such as food, the action word in the headline does lead to a higher click-through rate. And speaking of food, we're going to see that show up a few more times in the presentation as an outlier, so pay attention there. Moving on to round 2, does using the word shop or using the word buy have a bigger impact on click-through rates in your ads?
So at our last ad copy championship, we tested Shop Now versus Buy Now, and the data source was from standard text ads. So we wanted to test this again, but with standard text ads to see if we got the same results or not. And in this test, the call to action was included at the end of the description line. So let's see what the results are.
So, surprise, we actually have a user poll here. We want to see from you, what do you think will win in this category? So let me launch this poll for you. Let's see, getting responses now. Wow, this is good. So we're going to stop the poll. Would you believe that 72% of people said that Shop Now would be the winner over Buy Now? Let's see what the data tells us and if it's any different. Congratulations, the crowd is very wise today. Shop Now was the winner for this test. Isma, why don't you go over some of the numbers and explain to us what exactly happened here?
So for Shop Now, it had an average click-through rate of 2.55% versus a click-through rate of Buy Now, which was 1.64%. And then Shop Now had a higher conversion rate, 4.46%, versus that of Buy Now, 3.31%. So Shop Now had a higher click-through rate in these industries: animal, clothing and apparel, promotional, hobby, stationery, and technology. And Buy Now had a higher click-through rate in food and home furnishing. So let's share some results. Have you shared insights?
Yeah, this was another one where food came out as a major outlier. So in general, we saw that customers that are searching are more interested in browsing around. They want to shop. They have a general idea of what they're looking for, but they're not quite sure exactly what it is that they're going to buy. However, when we look at food, we saw that it was a major outlier. Look at the difference between Shop Now and Buy Now for food. And the reason we thought this happened was because that many people tend to have predefined preferences with what they like to eat. It's not necessarily something that they tend to browse around for, but instead, when purchasing online, you typically know what types of food you want to buy, and you're going to end up buying it now, similar to what we saw in the headlines when we have an action verb, how food also came out on top there. Next up, in round 3, we're going to look at the different effects of dynamic keyword insertion in our AdWords copy.
Okay, this might be a little bit technical, but dynamic keyword insertion is an advanced feature in AdWords that dynamically changes the ad text to match the search query of the user. So essentially, when you add the code in there, AdWords automatically replaces the code with the keyword that triggered your ad. So what the user gets is a more relevant ad based on their search query because the ad dynamically updates to include that particular search query.
Great, and for those of you who haven't done it, an example of this based on the chart we've shown here is where one user might search for dark chocolate bar and your ad might show buy dark chocolate. If someone else searches for milk chocolate bar, your ad would automatically update to that text to show buy milk chocolate so that it was a little bit more closer to their query. So, who wins in the dynamic keyword insertion is no DKI in headline 1. Big upset round here. Ismael, why don't you go over some of the numbers for the DKI test?
So we found that non-DKI had an average click-through rate of 2%, and DKI had an average click-through rate of 1.4%. So ads with DKI won in these industries: animal, food, hobby, and stationery. Non-DKI ads were won in these industries: B2B, clothing and apparel, promotional, home furnishing, and technology. To see what are some of the insights that you have about that.
Again, we see food as one of the big outliers here. Look at that difference between using DKI and not using DKI, right? And the reason for that, we believe, again, people have very specific preferences, and those people know what they want. So matching an ad to that specific preference will likely result in a better click-through rate. Other than that, this was a huge surprise to our team. We thought that dynamic keyword insertion would hands down win across the board. But that's why we test these things, because in almost every other category, the more generic ads that didn't have dynamic keyword insertion tended to win out. In B2B, this was a little bit more understandable. Typically, the business customer has an idea of what they're looking for, but might not exactly be sure of what it is. So their keyword queries are a little bit more discovery focused. However, we did not see this coming in the consumer searches. Very interesting result, and something we encourage all of you to test on your own and share your results with us to see if dynamic keyword insertion really is effective for your ads. On to round 4. It's been a pretty good showdown so far, and now we want to go to one that's extremely popular with many of our clients as well as with our UPS partners, and that's discovering what do consumers care more about, fast shipping or free shipping in their orders.
So for this test, there's a huge difference between the two words. With free, you don't have to pay for an extra delivery fee, but whatever you order, it takes time to get to you. With fast, you get exactly what you need, when you need it, but shipping is going to be significantly more. So in this test, we look specifically at headline 2 and description.
And the winner in the fast versus free shipping argument is, drumroll please, free shipping. And honestly, I think this was one a lot of different people were expecting. So Isma, go over some of the results from this test.
So I saw that free shipping really does make all the difference. With free shipping, it had an average click-through rate of 1.8% versus fast shipping, which had a click-through rate of about 1%. Interestingly enough, fast shipping had a better conversion rate, almost 15%, when compared to free shipping, which was about 2.6%. Free shipping won in animal, B2B, clothing and apparel, promotional, food, hobby, home and furnishing, and technology. Fast shipping did have one win. It was stationery. So do you want to talk about some of the insights, Steve?
Sure. This is something, again, I think most of you who have been in the industry a while could probably have guessed, and that's that free shipping is really commonly accepted as one of the most powerful retail promotions out there. In fact, in doing some extra research for this, one study showed that 9 out of 10 online shoppers cited free shipping as their primary motivation for shopping online versus going into stores. The interesting caveat here was fast shipping emerged as a clear winner in the stationery category. We thought this may be the case because with a lot of different stationery products, whether it's paper or pens or printer cartridges or things like that, it's usually more of an issue of having it now than it is of getting it free. I think we all know that feeling of dread when you run out of printer ink not expecting it, and you'd much rather get something fast than getting it free. And a lot of the times you're willing to pay even more for it. So interesting caveat that we saw with the stationery category. We're halfway done, folks. It's time to go into round 5, where we're going to measure the difference between using high quality to describe your products versus going into the breadth of what you offer with wide variety.
So last time in our ad copy championship, we tested high quality versus wide variety with standard text ads. So we wanted to do this test again to see if we got similar results. And overall, we just wanted to know, do people care more about quality or do they care more about choice? So let's find out who won.
And the winner in the high quality versus wide variety category is high quality, but only kind of.
So this one was very close. It had High quality had an average click-through rate of 1.58%, and then wide variety had an average click-through rate of 0.71%. The conversion rate for high quality, though, was 3.76%, which was very close to wide variety, which was 2.95%. High quality won in clothing and apparel and promotional, and wide variety won in animal, hobby, and stationery. If you have any insights you want to share?
This is a perfect example of when averages don't do us justice. As you can all see here, we have very different results, and those results are very category-specific preferences. In certain categories, customers want more choice. They want to see a wider variety of things to browse for, while in others, like promotional products, they care less about the amount of choice they have and more about the quality of the end product that they're going to get. For those of you who are interested in learning more about this, we highly recommend the best-selling book, The Art of Choosing, by Professor Sheena Ingar, who has been at several of our X equals experience events. This book will give you deeper insight into the different categories where choice plays a critical role, and at what point the number of choices available becomes too much for the consumer to handle. Next up, in round 6, we are going to test the effect of different trademark symbols on your click-through rates.
So for this test, we wanted to know, does having a trademark symbol in your ad really make a difference to people searching for specific products or services? Does having a trademark symbol add any sort of authority, or do people just tend to ignore it? So let's find out who won.
In the trademark battle, we saw the winner is that trademark symbol has a better click-through rate than ads without it.
Okay, so for this one, for trademark versus no trademark symbol, the data set we got wasn't large enough to really share conclusive results. That's why we decided to look at using the register symbol versus not using the register symbol. And the results were that with the register symbol, the click-through rate was about 4.3%, and the conversion rate was about 4.5%. No register symbol had a click-through rate of about 1.6% and a conversion rate of 4.8%. So overall, register symbol had a better click-through rate, but no register symbol had a better conversion rate.
Which is very interesting, and I think we've seen this across a lot of different tests we've done, but in general, trademarks are trust symbols, right? It's that little psychological cue that tells someone that your brand is legit, similar to having user reviews, similar to having awards, right? All these little things act to help people know that they're clicking the right ad. It may seem like a trivial thing to add, but just adding the registered or the TM symbol next to your brand name can help legitimize your brand. If you want to learn a little bit more about the impact of symbols on user behavior, we also included this powerful article in Psychology Today called More Than Words, 5 Ways to Unleash the Power of Symbols. No affiliation, we just thought it was a really good article. We will be sending this deck out to all of you, so for those of you who want, you can wait till you get the deck and click the link, or simply Google the name More Than Words, 5 Ways to Unleash the Power of Symbols, to check that article out on Psychology Today. In round 7, similar to trademarks, we want to ask, is branding still important in your PPC ads?
So with this test, we looked at adding the business name plus keywords and tested that against just adding keywords in headline 1. The example in the image shows Century 21 apparel versus pet supply sale. That's just an example of the kind of things that we did. So are businesses focusing more on their brand name or generic keywords to get those clicks? Should there be a balance? Let's take a look.
And the answer to do brands still matter is a resounding yes. The branded ads came out as the big winner in this category.
So the results for this were pretty amazing. Adding your business name in the H1 tends to have an average click-through rate of 6% or higher and an average conversion rate of 7.8% or higher. So in contrast, not having your name has an average click-through rate of 1.38% and an average conversion rate of 4.11%. So having your business name one in animal, clothing and apparel, food, hobby, home furnishing, and technology. Not having your business name one in B2B, promotional, and stationery. So let's take a look at some insights.
Right, now I know what a lot of you are going to say, and I agree. Some of this has to do with branded ads being a last click as part of your attribution model. We do get that. However, it's not even a question that having a strong brand name is still important in today's world. The only time we saw something a little funky was with the stationery and the promotional items. And this goes back to the trademark test as well. One reason for that is with some of these categories and some products, there is so much commoditization that brands really don't have a huge impact on it. So if you're in a category that is the victim of mass commoditization and severe price wars, brand name might not be quite as important, but for many categories, especially the ones with big brand names, this was still something that we found to be very, very important. On a side note, another ad copy test we've run in the past that has shown a big performance lift is adding the words official site along with the brand name in your headlines to add even more trust to the ad and improve the click-through rate. In round 8, we're going to go into the culture of now and see, do people want things right now, this very second, or is having it today good enough?
So micro moments happen when people want to learn, do, discover, watch, or buy something. They're based on intent, and they're in the moment occurrences. For example, if your car breaks down, you need to find the number for a towing company right away. In relation to potential micro moments, we want to see which word, now versus today, had a bigger impact. So let's find out who won.
In the now versus today debate, the winner is another user poll, just to make sure that everyone's still paying attention. So again, we want to go and see, what do you think will win out? Now or today? Great. A lot of people voting. This is great. And it looks like the wisdom of the crowd is saying with 65% that now is going to be the correct one. We'll give another couple seconds. Wow. So 2/3 of you officially said that the answer is now. Let's see what the data pulls out. And again, the crowd is 2 for 2. It's really great to have such a smart audience here today. Thank you, guys. Now comes out as the big winner in the second to last round.
So now had a higher click-through rate of 1.95% versus today, 0.98%. So interestingly enough, today had a conversion rate of 9% and now had a conversion rate of 4.3%. So it looks like now has a better click-through rate and today has a better conversion rate. So now won in animal, clothing and apparel, food, hobby, home furnishings, stationery, and technology. Today won in B2B, promotional, and technology. And now for some insights.
Yep, this was an interesting one, and there are a lot of different ways we can look at this. We chose to take a look at the psychological part that shows that people prefer now because of the immediate gratification that comes with it. As online shoppers, we're so used to getting things instantly. Think of when you do a Google search, billions of results in a fraction of a second, that we have been trained to expect things right now. This is due to impulsiveness, a tendency to avoid delay, minimizing uncertainty, dozens of other characteristics. Interestingly enough, though, when you go back, you could see that B2B and technology which are two that are skewed a little bit towards the business customers in our data set, you could see that the word today actually came out on top. We weren't quite sure with this, and I might be taking a little reach, but the reason we thought is that a business customer and a consumer shop in different ways. Think of how many times your boss has said to you, get this to me by the end of today. So there's a little bit more leniency when we're shopping for our business versus for when we're shopping for ourselves and expect that instant gratification right now. If you want to read more about that and see a little bit more why immediate gratification is such a powerful motivator, we've included another article from Psychology Today called 10 Reasons We Rush for Immediate Gratification. A great quick read for anyone who's more interested in the topic. Now on to round 9, and we are nearing the end of this epic battle. In round 9, we're actually splitting into 3 tests, and we want to see if it matters if you max out the character limits on your ads, right? So this is something that gets brought up all the time for our organic search customers when they ask for SEO. How many words should I write, right? And it's recently been coming up now that we have expanded text ads. People want to know, should I use the entire text ad or stop writing when I feel like it? Isma, why don't you go into a little bit of the background for why we did this?
So just remember, with ETAs, we have 40 more characters. So the question is, should we take advantage of all the characters, or should we just make sure that we use almost all of them? So what did we test? So we tested H1s and H2s under 25 characters versus H1 and H2 at 30 characters. We also tested descriptions under 75 characters versus descriptions at 80 characters.
And now we're going to go through the results one at a time. So the first result we had was for H1s, and the winner was a tie. There was no clear winner for whether or not you should max out your first headline. Let's take a look at the data.
Okay, so this one was a tie since H1 at 30 characters won by only 0.2% click-through rate. Surprisingly, H1 at 30 characters had an average conversion rate of 9.8%, whereas H1 under 25 characters had an average conversion rate of 4.9%. So we saw that H1 under 25 characters won in B2B, hobby, home furnishing, stationery, and technology. H1 at 30 characters won in animal, clothing and apparel, promotional, and food.
Next up is the head-to-head for the H2, the second headline. And the winner here is max characters had better results than underutilizing the max characters.
So for this, we found that H2 at 30 characters had an average click-through rate of 3.77% versus H2 under 25 characters at 1.43%. So the conversion rate for H2 at 30 characters was 4.65%, which was higher than under 25 characters, which was 2.98%. So we saw that H2 at 30 characters won in animal, clothing and apparel, promotional, food. It was tied for hobby, home furnishing, and technology. H2 at under 25 characters won in B2B, and as I said, tied in hobby, and also stationery.
Great. And finally, when we look at descriptions, another tie. How could this be possible? It's like we're watching a European soccer game, right? All these ties.
So for this one, we found that the descriptions at 80 characters only won by 0.5%, so we really had to call this one a tie. However, descriptions under 25 characters had a higher conversion rate, 5.85%, versus descriptions at 80 characters, which was 4.94%. So under 75 characters won in animal, B2B, promotional, food, and hobby. At 80 characters won in clothing and apparel, home furnishing, stationery, and technology. And now for some insights.
Now this was one we looked at for a long time and tried to figure out, is the data telling us something? Or are the results just randomly parsed out throughout this? And we decided on the latter. There wasn't a huge win margin between most of these categories. And our recommendation really is that you use the amount of characters that makes sense for a particular ad. Don't go above and beyond trying to play the character game and seeing if you can stuff different words in just to fill out the max. Instead, use the amount of characters that gets the point across without overfilling or using extra words. All in a simpler sense, make your characters count. So those were the 9 big tests we've run. We also wanted to include some other mobile best practices. I know we didn't get a lot into differentiating between desktop and mobile earlier in the presentation, so I'm going to hand it over to Isma now so she can take you through some of the mobile best practices that we've seen have been the most effective for our clients.
Okay, so according to a report from Hitwise, more than 60% of people start their search on mobile. That's why now is the best time to optimize for mobile. So you have to keep in mind that expanded text ads are viewed the same both on desktop and mobile. So one of the best practices is the if function. It differentiates the messages for users on desktop versus mobile. So what one person sees, you can utilize the if function to create a different message based on whether they're searching on desktop or mobile. So essentially, the formula says if the person is on mobile, they see tap now, but they're on desktop, they shop now. So this is an example of a preview of how it would look exactly on AdWords.
So as you can see, if someone is on a mobile phone, they'll get a different message than if they're on their desktop to make it a little bit more relative to the mobile searcher.
And then here I have the if function as a reference point, so you can take a look at this later. So you can segment it based on device or audience. And then another point is you want to make sure that you use site links. So click-through rate versus mobile site links of 117% and an 18% uplift in click-through rate on ads overall when they're used. So that's from Google Insights. So the site links below are dog supplies, cow supplies, and everything else below there. So you want to make sure that you use these because it can lead to a 10 to 20% increase in click-through rate depending on industry, and that's from a source at Google. And I also wanted to point out that they also make ads fast and actionable. For example, if you want to get pet supplies and you're focusing primarily just on dog supplies, you just click to it and it'll take you exactly to that page.
Yeah, and keep in mind when we're talking about mobile users, they don't have the same speed, they don't have the same accuracy with tapping versus clicking. So we want to make things as easy for them as possible. So that way it's less clicks from finding you to purchasing at your store.
Another best practice is to use ad extensions, and I did want to say that that includes site links as well. I just wanted to show them separately just as an example. So an example of ad extensions also includes location, call, app, review, call out, price, and structured snippets. So in this example, you can see the call out extensions. For example, learn about Diva Dollars. There's a call extension, so you can call directly from your phone, for example. There's also the location extension. So if you're looking for the store, you know that it's this far away from you, and these are the hours. And then you have the site links below. And then I just want to show one more example just so I could show the review extension and the price extension. And the price extension is really cool because, for example, if I want to get filet mignon, it says it's right there and I can click on it on that page. And then there are also the call extensions over there as well, such as Steaks to Your Door.
That's a great overview. And for those of you who haven't really dug deep into the different features you have with AdWords, know that you're not just limited to the 2 headlines, a URL, and the description. By using these ad extensions or the site links, you are able to tap into a lot of different motivations that your customers have and possibly convert them by showing them exactly what they want at the right time. In addition to that, if you notice here, look how much real estate these extra ads take up. When we're talking about a mobile phone where an ad might take up more than half the screen by using all these different extensions, it really does give you an unfair advantage over those who are below you in the SERPs and will help you convert more clicks to your website. So we're going to do a quick recap here. Now is the time I encourage you to start thinking of your questions as well, and we'll jump into those right after. So to review, in our first round, we saw that ads without an action word in the headline tended to do better than ads with the action word in the headline, except for food, of course, which was our outlier in the first 3 rounds. In round 2, we saw that Shop Now and allowing people the option to browse performed better than Buy Now, and the knowledge of the crowd won out there in our first user poll. So good job, everyone. In round 3, the big upset round, where we saw that dynamic keyword insertion did not play as big of a role in the results as we thought it would, where the non-DKI ads came out on top. In round 4, in a much less surprising round, we saw that free shipping overtook fast shipping, except for in the stationery category, where we believe the B2B shoppers may have skewed this a little bit. In the 5th round, high quality trumps wide variety. And in round 6, we saw that branded ads with a trademark symbol performed better than ones without a trademark symbol. On that same note, in the next round, ads with an established brand name in them worked over ads that only included the keyword without a brand. And we saw, and as the crowd affirmed, now was a more powerful motivator than today, except for, again, with that B2B audience. Finally, in the last round, as we determined, there wasn't really a strong winner for this 3-part test, and our advice was to use the right amount of characters without trying to over or understuff your ads and meet artificial character limits. Another quick reminder for those of you who are looking to follow up on this, again, the playbook will be sent to all of you by email after this presentation. And for those of you who want to dig a little deeper, please visit netelixir.com/copyaudit, and we'd be happy to have our team look through a sample of your copywriting ads. Thank you all very much. I'd like to take this time now to answer any of the questions that you have. So let's take a look. So someone asked us earlier, they said, does this assume it's a well-known business or brand? So that's when we were testing the brand name in the ads themselves. So one could assume that. Many of the companies that we work with now are pretty well-established brand names, but not all of them are. What we found is that clients that invest in building their brand, whether it's through Facebook ads or display ads or remarketing or even offline activities, tend to see a big lift when they start advertising with their brand name versus companies that purely differentiate on price and ignore building a brand. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a well-known brand, but you should take efforts to get your brand name out there in front of your target audience. So thank you for that question. Another question, this one's for Isma, we have is, if you have tightly grouped ad groups with very few keywords, do you really need dynamic keyword insertion?
Okay, so let me think. This may vary by industry, of course, but we saw in some of our newer clients where they have a tightly structured ad group set up that non-DKIs did outperform DKIs. So I can elaborate more on this on the white paper that I sent, because I actually include that as a case study as well. So you guys will have that data as well.
Great, thank you, Isma. And the next question we have is, have you ever tested alternating the message in your H1 and H2 headings?
Yeah, we actually have. Like I said, I also have some examples in the white paper as well. But I can tell you, based on those results, that H1 is way more important in having a relevant message connected to the user query. And you have to keep in mind that the very first thing that a person sees in your ad is H1. So that's really important.
Great, thank you. Okay, other than that, oh, here's one. I don't know the answer to this, and it's a very interesting question that we'll have to test. Someone asked, what about fast and free shipping? That's an interesting test, and that's definitely something we'll have to look at for next year's Ad Lab Championships. So we are running pretty close to the end here. If anyone else has any further questions, please feel free to go to netelixir.com/contact to reach out to us and ask your questions, or feel free to email us at webteam@netelixir.com. Again, thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful holiday season, and we hope to see you on our next webinar in the beginning of December, where we go over the results for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Stay tuned for that. Thanks, everyone.